This is the autobiography on Symbolic Recipe. This is probably a favorite amongst most students. The prompt states, write a symbolic recipe for yourself. This means your ingredients are not blood, muscle, bone, eye color, and hank of hair, but abstract qualities and personality traits like patience, friendliness, humor. What is really necessary in creating you? Follow standard recipe format for full credit. A list of 6 or more ingredients with exact measurements, followed by a paragraph of instructions, advice about the proper sequence of steps, must include a tip or warning, and you may not use the word you. All right, step 1, what you need to do is think of at least 6 of your personality traits. For example, when thinking of my son, he had outgoing, silly, considerate, captivating, athletic, and ambitious. What you do once you have those 6 traits is you try to figure out which is more dominant in your personality, which is the one that you have least of. So you've got to compare all of these personality traits to one another. Like, my son's very outgoing, but his captivating is less than outgoing and athletic. And of course, you just kind of feel them out. And ultimately, what you get to is step 3, which is where you would put the largest of the quantities into your recipe. So you think about the number 1 thing he is outgoing. The number 2 is ambitious. And you've kind of got to go in that order and think about which has the most and which has the least. And for step 4, once you've decided which is the most and which is the least, you need to make corresponding measurements that justify that particular amount. And of course, like any recipe, they need to be justified or they need to be in the center of the page. A recipe card has the ingredients listed at the top in the center. So for example, the center of my son's page would have outgoing is 2 cups. Remember, that's what he was the most of. Captivating is only 2 tablespoons. He has silly, but just a sprinkle. Athletic is half a cup. Considerate is a teaspoon. And his ambition is 1 cup. Over on this side, you have suggested measurement types. You can have sprinkles and dabs, pinches, teaspoons, tablespoons, cup, pints, quarts, gallons. These are typical of what you would use for measurements. You can use others, but these are typical measurement format. For step 5, you write the combinations of steps for this recipe. You need to make sure that when you write the recipe, it is like a paragraph, step by step. The other thing that you need to do is you need to include some kind of a warning. In the center of my son's recipe, in bold red, is the warning that goes with his. You also do not use the word you. I've never heard the word you used in a recipe. You don't say you mix this with that. You need to do this with that. No, you just state them very clear, very concisely. So this is an example of what the paragraph of instructions should look like, including the red warning. In one bowl, combine the outgoing with the athletic. Next, gently mix in the captivating. After it is completely mixed, sprinkle a little silliness on top. Avoid adding too much silliness, or the Dalton cake will always act crazy. Last, mix in considerate and ambitious to the mixture. Place in a 4x6-inch pan and bake for 9 years. This will make a 1-serving Dalton cake. And here is the recipe with its proper format. Notice centered to the top are all of the ingredients. And there's one more thing I want to point out. This last little instruction, I missed a little bit. There was a line that said in a 4-foot by 6-foot pan, because at the time my son was 4 foot by 6 foot, so it gave them his own measurements. And then of course here it says bake for 9 years. This was written when he was 9 years old. So if you're 16, you're baking for 16 years. If you're 20, you're baking for 20 years. If you're 25, you're baking for 25 years. Well, that's just a suggestion. So this is how you do that symbolic recipe. If you have any questions, you know who to ask.